Hey, everybody. Welcome. You are live on Shally's Alley, where the darkest corners of talent acquisition strategy are brought into the light. And I completely just made that up. Happy June 19th, which in the United States is sometimes considered a holiday, could be a holiday for some people. It's called Juneteenth. Look it up. Obviously, if you are outside of the United States, that's probably not going to mean a whole lot because it's strictly a official U.S. federal holiday. Don't think it has anything to do with outside of that. It's got to do with it's Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Emancipation Day, Black Independence Day. Has to do with the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation and President Abe Lincoln. So it's a big deal for a lot of folks here in the U.S., but probably not very well known outside that. So happy Juneteenth for those of you who celebrate, and happy other side of the pond for our guest, Steve Ward. If you're wondering who Steve is, then you've probably been living under the same rock I've been living in, and I'm not really sure why we're not neighbors. Steve has been, how shall I say, he's spent almost 2 decades in the brand game, employer brand. And as you know, we've had a bit of a brand stretch of episodes lately. But, Steve has been in the game longer than most people have been on LinkedIn, actually. He builds EVPs. If you don't know what that is, then ask Steve. For some of the world's biggest employers. He spent years running strategic insights at companies like Universum and Blackbridge. And then he decided to go solo and do it his own way. Meanwhile, on the side, as if he didn't have enough to do, he built a community of in-house employer brand professionals called the Employer Branding Club, which I believe is the EB Club. Is that right?
Yeah. Go either way.
EB Club, which for me would be the Easter Bunny Club, but that's okay. And it is now all over Europe and apparently coming to the United States in what, October, you said?
Yeah, it is.
There you go.
Exactly, yeah. Around the world. So yeah, it's good times, interesting times for it.
So
and it's very educational about Juneteenth. I come here and I get educated. I like that, Shally.
Right.
I learned something new. Never heard of Juneteenth.
Awesome. Well, teach us something new. Give us the 60-second. I'm going to start the timer. Give me the 60-second version of your career arc.
Yeah, so look, I was a recruitment guy that then went into kind of when social media boomed, everything changed, right? And the whole world. And I jumped into that pool really deep, used social media as a sourcing and recruiting method for years. That then turned it into a sort of a branding thing because naturally that came so naturally. And I kind of preferred marketing and branding more than the recruiting sourcing bits, if I'm honest. So that then carved my career to work both. I used to have my own consultancy called Cloud9. Then I went in-house to go and do it for real, effectively inside the various companies that I worked for. Then got to work with the biggest employer brand agency in the world in Universum, very insights mind, etc., into employer brand research, talent research, etc. Built EVPs all over the place. We can talk about what EVPs are if we need to. And then Blackbridge a bit last year, which was fun. They're a great creative agency. And then I went on my own, and here I am. I'm now doing consulting, but really probably these days most of my time is now the EB Club and bringing people together to tackle some of the biggest issues in attracting talent, holding on to talent, making places seem like great places to work.
So, we got to work something out, my friend, because you've got a community. I've got a community. I've got TSI University, which is a it's a university for people to learn the art and the skill of full desk recruiting. I focus a lot on sourcing, but to be honest, branding is not really, it's not really covered because I'm working on the kind of like the funnel. I don't call it a funnel. I call it a hopper because I feel like a funnel has a big problem. The funnel is you got a lot of things on top and then everything gets jammed in and very little comes out. It's a very slow process and most people are trapped in there. So I call it more of a hopper, but the idea is, it's going out and finding people, getting them interested, bringing them in and all that. So branding is really essentially the other side of the exact same coin, which is to have people organically coming to you. And we don't really get into that, but you've got a community, I've got a community. We should probably do something about that. Let's explore that.
Yeah, exactly. We should shape communities. No, it's good. And I think I think employer branding is way closer to the sourcing side.
It is.
Than you've just alluded to effectively accidentally. Like I think there's so much attached to the reasons why somebody would even want to pick up the phone to a source or respond to an email before. And that's that's not the source's fault. That's
no,
just
it's not.
Stuff going on.
That's what I've been talking about with Cheney and a few other branding experts here in the US about how branding can support sourcing and vice versa. And it's something that's very often overlooked. It seems almost like two separate functions, right? Yeah. But I got to tell you, have you ever heard the term guerrilla marketing?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I first, when I first started delving into the world of corporate recruiting. So I came from agency and did that for a while. But when I started working in-house a corporation and I was being asked to, in addition to everything else that I did, can you also help us with, attraction? My mind went to this concept called guerrilla marketing because it was, to me, kind of like the marketing equivalent of sourcing to recruiting. So like sourcing is to recruiting, like guerrilla marketing is to marketing, I guess. But I think guerrilla marketing lends itself really well to branding if done right. Now, the viral potential is there. And the grassroots, low cost kind of stuff is there. The problem that guerrilla marketing has that could trip people up is the fact that it can be a little bit more on the shock, amuse, delight kind of side of things, which could run against the company brand. So, I wanted to dive into that a little bit.
No, it's interesting. No, I'm really interested because I like the shock. Surprise.
If it works, right? Yeah.
If it's on brand, it has to be on brand.
If it's on brand, right?
But the concept of if it works is based on whether it depends on who you're attracting and are you saying the right things. So I think the challenge with shock and surprise is sometimes if we go with a purely sourcing, hiring, we need you approach to it, we potentially go into a zone of shocking immaterially, incorrectly, with tone deaf shock. Tone deaf shock is awful for brands, right?
Not
just for a brand. It's bad for shareholders. It's bad for the brand as a whole. But as you got already, I'm an insights head, so I think about what talent wants, what they care about, what they respond to.
Exactly.
I'd love to get super deep. I was chatting to somebody today who's got super deep into the whole kind of behavioral psychology element of and I'm really interested in decision making. And one of the reasons I got into all of this in the employer brand side is because I love the concept of decision making, the psychology of decision making.
Is that because you were incapable of making decisions, or?
I was quite good at it. No, I was terrible. But I kind of want to know, like, why would somebody choose Oracle over Dell? Why would somebody go to Microsoft over Amazon? What are the factors? And what you start to do when you look into the real insights part of it, you start to listen to voices and feelings and sentiments, is you start to realize all the whys. And whys don't have to be big. Whys can be really small hooks. And so your thing about funnel, I'm okay with the fact that there's a very small little chunk of people that kind of dribble through to the bottom at the end. Hopefully they come through pretty quickly, but we know the world's
right. But if it's on brand, it's the right people.
Precisely, because there has to be a process where we distinguish the right people and the wrong people, right? Go by recruiting 101, attraction 101, like recognizing the difference as early as possible as to where are we going to waste time and where are we going to get the greatest value. And it starts with having a message that's potent and anti-tone deaf, dead on to the right people. But is that message going to be, hey, we're a company with great careers and a wonderful mission statement, and look at the opportunities that are available to you here? Probably not at the top of the funnel, the first point of impact. The first point of impact is going to be something that makes them kind of yank their head round and kind of go, what the hell? I never realized that existed.
Yeah, I didn't know that you did that.
Yeah.
Right. So that works for me for sourcing is when I get across to candidates and they say, I didn't know you guys did that.
Yes.
That means, that I hit something. I hit a
Yeah,
nerve.
nerve. Yeah,
Um,
good nerve.
but I wanted to ask you about this because you went on this show nobody's ever heard of called Recruiting Brain Food.
Yeah.
Um,
Nobody's
everybody,
ever heard of that.
yeah, nobody's ever heard of Recruiting Brain Food
No.
ever. And you said you called employer, or you said, I don't know, you mentioned that you felt like employer branding is in a crisis.
Yeah.
Now that is some strong language. Can you make the case for me? I'm skeptical.
Yeah. Well, look, I think when I made that quote, it was December last year when I sat with Hung, and it was based.
Yeah, you said agencies are shutting down roles; they're being cut.
Yeah, the world is struggling. Like and no, AI has a big part to do with that, right? So I think AI, but we can cross the bridge of AI. That's a whole discussion. We can cover that.
Let's talk about branding.
But the other side is the skill and the responsibility and accountability of employer branding. I spend a lot of time. I spend every week surrounded by employer brand people, in-house employer brand people, because I run the employer brand club and travel around Europe, listening to stories and obviously into other places. And what you realize is that people are fighting a battle in employer branding to recognize where their accountability is. They're getting pulled from pillar to post right now. It used to be an attraction thing. It's become more of a retention thing and more of a people experience thing. But then we still need the recruitment marketing attraction bit. And it's becoming this sort of multi-layered, And what that does is the more you become stretched, the less you become directly accountable for anything. And if you don't become accountable for anything in this current marketplace, then you become replaceable. And with AI around, you can become replaceable. So what I was seeing a lot in the 18 months leading up to this year was agencies having a real tough time, particularly in the creative zone. People in-house losing their roles and struggling to find new roles in employer brands because the art had been lost, the value of the art had been lost. And you have to remember, a lot of people landed in employer brand by accident, right? Again, it's like recruiting. Nobody ever had a career plan to be a recruiter when we were a kid. Nobody really ever had a career plan to be an employer brander either. It's a fallout from recruitment or HR or from marketing that we found here, which means we never got equipped with the tools that say, what's my business case? What's my business reason for being here? How do I? So to put those two things together, the sort of like this constant stretching of the employer brand skill and identity set into almost like a thin set of thin layers, and AI coming in with the ability to create video, create content, create things, do things, research stuff at pace, at scale, and at low cost. That creates a crisis. That created a crisis problem.
Okay.
So that's where that kind of stemmed from. Interestingly, I'm now 6 months on, and because the world moves so freaking fast, I've adopted a change of thought. I've now seen people at work, and I've seen people adapt, and I've seen the change in the use of AI.
They got laid off and they got jobs. It's not. Maybe it's still a crisis, but it's changed. Okay, so tell me more about that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think our vision has changed. There's a lot of vision changes because the world of retention and employee experience has become more important in the employer brand circle probably than the world of attraction and sourcing and hiring. In terms of the relationship, people have been pulled internally, and I think it's probably saved a few people's jobs because I think it was by the time we got to the end of February, I knew 6 people in Europe whose global title roles had moved from being global employer brand lead to global employer brand and employee experience lead or something along that line. And what that's done is saved their job because the old-fashioned employer brands
was all external.
Was probably built on external and probably didn't have a viewpoint that businesses on the whole and C-suite on the whole could recognize the value of. Soon as you flip it closer.
But isn't that literally the same thing that happened with marketing, where they switched from being, to also doing internal comms?
Yeah, yeah. Again,
Yeah.
and I think we're in a world now whereby ever since, I mean, look, it's been 6 years since COVID, right? So in that period, the spots all changed, right? We all sort of started to care about the way people feel internally because we went through a couple of crises around that, around people, you know, again, losing their fulfillment with organizations, starting to get grumpy, starting to leave, blah, blah, blah. And employer brand then started to think about how do we care about people. So I think this link to HR, the link to people operations, the link to talent management is essential. It was essential. It's become essential because it's probably saved some people's jobs. And third, but most importantly, at the end of it all, or not most importantly, but certainly importantly at the end of it all, we're now actually looking for authenticity. And authenticity is one of those kind of like ding. I just said a buzzword, but the
That'll be a $5 charge.
yeah, exactly. I'll try not to use it again then. But the point
Sorry,
is,
did I say $5? I meant 5 sterling pounds.
yeah, well, that's. I think it works out that the pounds is really expensive compared to the dollar. But
that makes it worse.
But the point is, yeah. So it's kind of reshaped it because now what we're looking at is the real world experiences, what I call the bloodline of organizations, rather than looking at the sales patter that we need to deliver to candidates externally. We're now flipping it into what are the real experiences. You know, we've come a ways in the world of advocacy and campaigns for advocacy and internal like video communication tools for employees to be able to communicate and share thoughts. More companies are allowing ambassadors to use social media and promote their brands and all this. So all of a sudden, we're now looking at much better, looking at employees and employee voice rather than corporate noise or recruiter noise. And that brings a slightly different method of communication to the market because all of a sudden we switch it from rational thinking reasoning as to why somebody should join it or could join a company into the world of emotional, human related, reactionary content and stories and feelings that in a world of digital engagement and social media and the need to find companies that people believe in and care about might resonate slightly better. And that in the toolkit of the Sourcer is you know, different languages, different tones, different hook points, I think is a really, really interesting opportunity for that attraction market.
Absolutely. So anchor this for me. What metric would tell you that this has completed the shift or that the crisis, quote unquote, is?
No, I don't think it's completed the crisis, but what it's done is I think we've flipped in the right direction.
So what's the metric that would show you that it's
you know what? Do you know what the simplest metric would be? Look at the change of job titles in the on LinkedIn. Like, you know, literally the job titles have shifted, or look at the job specs or the job kind of the movement towards. So it's not a number; it's a visual representation. And I can say because I run a community of in-house employer branding geeks, I see this kind of shift in the language that people want to talk about because all of a sudden people are now being given a new responsibility. It's cool.
But what are the things that they're doing that shows they're not in crisis?
The shows are not in crisis.
Yeah. So the job title changed, language changed.
Yeah.
But what are the job duties that are now safe?
I don't think it's just job duties. Job duties is a consequence.
I see.
What I'm seeing is that the reporting line is beginning to change.
Okay.
Into more towards people, HR, culture. Side of things. And as soon as it flips there, and I mean, there's been examples of marketing, but I'm certainly seeing more alignment now with the people, HR leadership kind of side. And that means the sustainability in it because that is generally a very safe zone inside an organization and feels across the organization really well. I think on the front line, talent acquisition, that kind of is a less secure industry in recent times. In my opinion, that's an area because companies have reduced the amount of hiring that they would do. So I think it's just a different shift, but it's a good shift. It's a good shift that empowers both sides way better. And like I say, I think it saved people's job a little bit.
It sounds like what you're talking about, definitely.
Yeah.
So all right, so you have employer brand, and then you have AI, and then they come together. Help or harm?
Both.
Oh man, I hate
I
that.
know. Did I just do? I did get a bit of
Okay,
wood out
okay.
of
So
my
let me
ass.
ground it for you. So you had a client whose AI only EB
Yeah, you
content
saw.
underperformed badly. Nobody believed
Yeah,
it. It was generic. You and now let's that's the grounded, like this happened to you or to your
yeah,
client.
yeah. No, I've seen this
Um,
in a scenario. Yes.
right. And now so you got in-house teams that lost a lot of headcount, and now there's like 2 people and no budget. So they kind of have to use AI.
Yeah, they do. And so I think that. So I
What's
think
the
I've dug my heels in the sand about AI for quite a while. Not
okay?
out of not through being a dinosaur, just through even when I did all that social media starting stuff way back in 2006, like I jumped into it, but with big eyes and big ears to kind of work out. I don't want to screw this up, right? I want to do this correctly. It's got to work for the audience. Same with AI. I think we have been in danger of just sleepwalking into cannibalism and sleepwalking into this overexcited world where every third word is AI, and we get
Mm,
kind of and every
yeah.
flipping thing that comes in on my phone is AI powered. AI, welcome to
Yeah,
my
they
AI
literally took a
powered.
sticker, they slapped a sticker that says, and now with AI on
Yeah,
everything, whether it had it or not. Okay, so
yeah,
yeah, we get it.
precisely. And what version of AI are you talking about? So
But
I think
right,
it's
but now, so now you're over that because it's like we have to accept
I'm
that
over it.
the world is calling it AI, even though it isn't AI. But now we're there. So
I'm not over it because I think I still see people sleepwalking into it and
yeah,
almost
no,
like
they do,
but
but what I'm
but I
saying
think
is that it's now like standard vernacular. Everybody talks about it, and just like the internet, it has many different. Even today, even though I started working on the internet in 1997 or
yeah, yeah,
1998,
yeah,
fast forward to today, I still have to explain to people what the internet actually is.
actually is,
So
yeah.
I don't think that we're ever going to stop having to explain to people what AI actually is. But now that we have more people starting to pay attention to that,
Yeah,
you're saying that there is a way to use
yeah, yeah.
AI for good. So you
Yes,
said both. I said help or harm. You said
yeah.
both. So
Harm is
let's go to the
misuse.
let's go to the help side.
Yeah, well, the help is great. I mean, look, I mean, I've spent a lot of time on this. The help side is I want to make decisions in a more informed way quicker than I used to. I can do that.
Yes.
The
Okay.
research,
Decision.
the
Yeah.
research capability.
Information gathering, summarizing content.
Yeah, and
Large language models are fabulous at that.
yeah, and it sounds
Yeah.
obvious that I've just said that, but it's not because I've been testing this for 2 years, and I would go to the market. This kind of question that we're all told that we've got to abide by, which is, what does everybody's going to ask AI about your brands and what it's like to work at your company.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, okay, they're going to do that. That's fine, but they're going to get the wrong answer more often than not. So because the data that's available for it to scrape, that it can choose to scrape, still not as refined enough in its simplest form yet. Now, I'm a formulaic guy. I'm doing AI based research and some of the work I
Mm-hmm.
do with clients at the minute, but it's done in segments. It's done in multiple
That
layers.
is 100%. I can agree with you.
Yeah,
That is a universal truth. You have to chunk it up,
yeah,
and whether you decide to send certain parts of it to certain apps, there are some apps that do better with others.
yeah,
But
yeah,
the truth is this: there is no monolithic, megalithic, universal AI that does everything. You have to chunk it up, even if you only use one tool, even if Claude is your preference
even yes,
tool, you still have to chop things up into bits, and then you can have orchestration put it together. But
yeah.
if you say orchestrate the whole thing, it doesn't work.
It can't do it. And this is where the help thing comes in because I want everybody, I want all of us to use AI with human guidance. Like, so we are the ones who drive the car. The AI is just a tuning up of our engine and all the kit inside the car, but we're still driving. It's still our car. I'm still a driver of a car. I still like the way I drive the car. I still trust myself to drive the car really, really well. But I like having cool tools in my car that make certain things better, faster, blah, blah. And I think that's the way I kind of consider it. I drive a program at the moment that says, right, this is my use of AI. I could do and again, this is where I call sleepwalking. Sleepwalking is going to Claude and saying, all right, I am whatever the company, Joe Blogg's company. What do people think about working here? Or what do people say about work? And it just gives you a bump, and actually it'll give you a very pretty thing as well to tell you the story as well. It's really nice of it, but it's monolithic, as you say, and it doesn't take into consideration nuance, perspective, and so I look at it from 6 different angles. I've got a little methodology that I use that I don't need to go into massively, but the point is, I still have to do analysis. I still have to do the analysis of the data, because the only way I'm going to give a company a clear decision, or an employer brand leader a clear guidance on what should be the approach to market, I have to have checked over everything, done the science element behind it, and give them something that comes from my bank of knowledge, as well as with the help of the capture capability.
Right.
And I think, in essence, what we're saying sounds so simple, but it's kind of, but it's the way in which it's done. Like with all things, it's not sleepwalking. It's kind of like it's just taking the right thing, using it the right way. And that's because, and I said recently, there was an example where we compared kind of an AI output to go to market, and then we compared a combined approach to market. The difference between the two is the AI one is logical. It makes sense. The one that I did, because it had my flavor of approach into it and understanding what people were saying in different camps, mine had inspiration, an idea, it had grab, it had pull. It was designed to inspire a thought, not to fulfill a job spec. It was designed to pull, and so the difference is punch versus real kind of just plain logical, rational delivery.
Okay.
Makes sense. AI is rational.
Right. And it's not deterministic. So you're saying, let me kind of recap. You're saying ground it in your knowledge so it helps you gather your thoughts.
Yeah.
Number 2, use it as a way to analyze lots of things, like whether it's large, a body of knowledge, large, text, ideas, whatever, but use it as a way to like organize thoughts and help you with ideation based on your own stuff, right? And then you're also saying, I think I kind of got a little bit lost on that third one. You're saying that it's to help you give the punch, but not, what's the not?
No, I find the punch.
The other way around. I see.
Yeah, exactly.
So because it gives you the ideas, and that's what I was missing. Okay.
Because I know,
because I know what's going to hit. I see.
I know the difference. If you say something powerful and boomy to me, I know the difference between that and you saying something that's kind of granular and ordinary. And so, because we can do that, because we have human perception, we have human analysis.
Actually, do you know why we can do that?
What's that?
You know why we can do that?
Yeah, go on.
No, actually, I know the answer to this.
Yeah,
I just wrote a post about this. Let me see if I can put it on here. Captions. Here we go. Let me try to. Yes, I can do that. Okay. So on TSI University, or if you just go to tsiuniversity.com, you'll see the blog. I wrote an article about what's called semantic knowledge. And I was prompted to do this because there was a Karolinska experiment that involved, it was a scientific experiment, with the whole scientific method, hypothesis, etc. And the study is called Semantic Knowledge Guides Innovation and Drives Cultural Evolution. It's a scientific paper. But anyways, it's from PNAS. So legitimate scientific document. What they demonstrated is that semantic knowledge will always beat AI. And the outcome of the study was that they found that people who were stripped of their background knowledge, solved problems no better than a random number generator.
Right.
So that's what you're talking about. You're saying that you know how to detect which one is going to punch because of your semantic knowledge the AI doesn't have. And here's the thing about the study that really sold me was that even when the humans that had no background knowledge about this activity watched those that were winning and did it right, even when the humans who didn't know the background knowledge watched the winners do it right in front of them again and again, they still failed just as often as random number generators. Why? Because they didn't have the semantic knowledge.
Yeah. And this is where we have to hold our ground. And this is where we have to protect our art, our skill, our human capabilities in this change. And that's just what I mean about the fact I don't want us just running and sleepwalking into it. I think it's holding on to our strengths, like it's holding on to it. But I am a more powerful employer brander than I have ever been now.
Because of all the things you've been able to process.
Because of what I've been able to process in partnership with all the stuff that used to take me forever, that I can now do through it. And the cost element comes down massively.
Considerably.
I can charge a lot less than maybe I would have done 2 or 3 years ago. And that's great. And that's great for the world because
so you can have more clients at lower cost and
more opportunity. Well, in a world where everybody's like budgets are being hit and being cut and blah, blah, and everybody's trying to find everything that costs a lot of money at the moment needs a lot of demonstration as to why. And so we're just in a world where I think we're finding it. And most conversations I have now, and I have a lot of conversations with employer brand leaders around the world about the use of AI and the way in which they're integrated. Most decisions, or an increasing amount of decisions, are becoming smart decisions, smart partnership oriented decisions, where a global employer brand leader says, I needed to do a thing. I needed to create a persona mapping environment. And so I did it with AI, and I continue to do it with an agent through AI, rather than going out and doing a humongous research project that costs an arm and a leg to go and find this data. I've now got the combination of internal voice, external scrape and grab and AI capture to create these kind of AI personas that communicate. I mean, the guy I'm thinking about when I say this, they even created them into a human called June and Jerry and whatever else it was, and they communicate. If the talent acquisition team can go to the persona, the AI persona, and say, "Hey, look, and go to kind of like, well, it's like a person, like a thing, and say, right, we need to hire some engineers in China. Like, what do we need to focus on? What are the things at the minute that are going to work for us that the market is asking for?" And it will say, you need to really right in the current market, you need to focus on this a little bit now, because it's been fed the knowledge,
the current information
inside the organization and what's going on in the outside world. And when you bring those two together, you bring truth and the sort of perspective, external perspective that it grabs. So who we actually are versus what the world is actually needing. Let's combine those two things, and the AI comes up with a guidance,
some ideas or suggestions.
Precisely, and that's what I'm talking about with the work I find I do now. Is I've got a guidance structure, and sometimes the ideas are really good, and they make me because the brain is more powerful than my brain. And
but it gives you 3 ideas, and you pick the best one.
I pick the best one.
It's not giving you the one single idea.
And massage it to be what it. The compelling noise, the compelling sound.
So let me connect the dots for you on something here. You're saying that AI is enabling us to work smarter, faster, learn more, do more, and be able to price our products, and our services lower so we can get more customers and make more money. What if I told you that I could use that exact same statement and replace the word AI with the word the internet? It's the exact same thing that happened with the internet.
It's a version of the same thing.
In recruiting, in the early 2000s, the internet was, staffing firms and agencies were like, nah, we don't use the internet. We're not going to use the internet. And then they got, convinced as they realized that the internet was allowing them to work faster, get more customers, so it's the same thing. It's just another tool. So the reason I want to connect these dots is because there's really a lot of hype about AI, or has been. And I think we have turned the corner to where that hype is now no longer being trumpeted from, every major vendor that's trying to pull the wool over your eyes. I'm starting to see the CEO of Microsoft say, you know what? Frontier AI models are not the solution. And these were the very same companies that were saying AI is going to change the world. It's going to take your
laying
jobs.
people off. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the exact same. Literally, get in a time machine and go to 1996, and you will see that is exactly what they were saying.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I think it's just all of these things are evolution, and this is what I mean about the
it's
fact
an evolution. It's
that
tools.
it's an evolution,
Yeah.
but we are now more informed than we were in 1996.
Just like when the internet came around, we were
Yeah,
more
well, I know.
informed. Same
Really, the internet informed us. We learned this.
Right.
But
You used to have to go to the library and read books and get magazines and newspapers. Now you can go to Google. It used to be you went to Google. Now you can go to your favorite chatbot. Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when we went through it with social media, right, there were the naysayers.
Exactly.
There were the people like, why would you want to do it there? Why would you go about doing it? Now it's everyday behavior. And all of this will become, but what we did in each of the circumstances, in the internet and in social media and in the way that we're starting to adopt, and I like you, I see a different voice. I would say even in the last 3 months, I'll go as granular as to say that I think that my encouragement in the last 3 or 4 months has been almost like a beginning of an awakening to this kind of critical adoption of it, critical decision-making adoption of it, rather than you've still got your evangelists out there that are going to bang drums and say that, I was watching something on TV earlier today. This guy was an idiot. But
they got something to sell, of course.
But he had something to sell and he wanted to stand for something, right? And it's fine. Like, everybody's got a reason for doing what it is they do. I'm in the rational thinking kind of group that says, I want to know why first. I want to know that the outcomes are better than what I had before. And when they're better, I'm in. And this is where things like creativity and copy still, for me, are great routes with AI. You can have some real fun with creativity and copy with AI. But I don't want to kill off the videographer. I don't want to kill off the designer. I don't want to kill off my copywriter people, because I know they've got that art that
it's not it's
changed. That's a human instinct. Yeah,
more people can create content, but you still need that other thing. But I wanted to actually dig into something here. You talk about EB shifting from employment branding, shifting from attraction to reputation, but a lot of EB teams are still measured on career site traffic and applications and brand awareness. You said that 58% of employment branding leaders can't measure brand perception, yet it's the number one thing leadership wants reporting on. Yes. How does that happen?
I know. This was a study that I did last year.
What's that break like?
I mean, and it's mad, isn't it? It's like
click on that.
Yeah. Because what I found fascinating, because I very deliberately positioned the question in the research about not what do you measure employer branding, what does your company require you to measure?
Okay, right, that makes sense.
Yep. And that's and I think it's a very important distinction, right? Because what I was looking for was that accountability question, right? And 58% of people, I can't remember the stats, so you probably haven't had it. It's a year since I did them, but the point was the first thing the business expects from them is a movement in employer brand perception. And but 58% of people couldn't measure it, or didn't know how to measure it, or felt unequipped to measure it. And it just sort of meant that if we've got that disconnect between employer brand professionals and leadership, we have a problem. And this is a lot where my crisis kind of comment came from, Shally. I think it's that was the disconnect. I sit in the halls now, like I say, every week around everywhere, listening to employer brand leaders, and people are finding ways in which to measure all sorts of things. The shift, there are employer branding still gets asked to measure what the traffic, its contribution to digital traffic and things that probably shouldn't too much, like the application flow and things like that. But that's open for debate as to whether employer brand really is a direct impact on who is hired. But it certainly should, in terms of kind of caliber of people that come through the door. That will still exist, because it's still going to be a mechanism that is around positioning, attraction, and helping people make good choices in who it is they apply for. But I think what we're seeing now is more people talking about quality of hire, retention, the development of behaviors inside an organization that are in line with the EVP or in line with the values of the company, etc. So we're starting to see a different influence in what employer brand does, and that means the metrics then
We'll start changing. Okay, all right. So that we're gonna. So right now it's upside down, but we'll eventually get there. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but this is why it's hard, right? I feel for employer
because they're measuring.
You've got to measure out there, and you've got to measure in here. Like,
right.
and there's a lot of people in the process that can screw all that up.
Well, if it starts with we don't know how to measure it, that's kind of the biggest screw up right there, right? I mean, we can't. Yeah. You're asking me to. So I'm an Uber driver.
Yeah.
You're my passenger, and you're asking me, am I going to get there on time? And I'm telling you, I have no way of telling that. I mean, you're the customer.
You're not trusting the map. You're not trusting the ways.
Well, I just don't. No, it's not that I don't trust the map. It's that I don't have the mechanism for. Yeah. Like I don't know how to. If I could look at the GPS and the GPS says we're 20 minutes away, then I'd be able to provide the answer. Yeah. But the GPS doesn't exist in this scenario, so the driver can't really say we're 20 minutes away because there isn't a map.
No, indeed. And measure, and I think there's two ways of measurement, because I'm a measurement guy without question. I'm like you, Shally. I want to know. I want to know some numbers. I want to see.
Are we there yet? And how late are we going to be?
I want to see change. But but there's a point where
are we getting closer or not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, show me something. But the point is like I think there's been a bit of a reasonable argument recently about over measuring, over complicating, forgetting human instinct, forgetting the way some of the unmeasurables that define some of the other measurables. The unmeasurables are how do you make people feel? Reputation was at the start. This kind of like one of the topics we put here. If you're a company that absolutely makes people feel crap, you're not going to have a great employer brand, right? You've got a problem from day one. Your poor sourcer is trying to go out there to say, right, come and work for X company, and if somebody's like X company is not on my radar because of X, Y, Z. So reputation is a
look. I've had that happen. Okay,
yeah,
and sometimes it's not. And not to name names, but that worked with a client where, right? And it starts with A. And no, just kidding. But this is the stark reality. Let's say that your employer is in the. Let's just say that your employer or the company that you're representing is in the business of killing people.
Yeah.
They're a weapons manufacturer. They're manufacturing weapons for the sake of national security, and in a country that's at war and defending their people and trying to save lives, unfortunately having to do that. But like, that's kind of like that's one of those like, oh my God, it can be done. And I've done it, but it's not, it's not like the easy answer. Like, hey, we make weapons. Like that's not, and then here's another one. I've had a scenario where, and maybe you can throw your 2 cents in on this. There was a company that I worked with that had a major global incident. And that major global incident was viewed by the general population of the world as essentially a planet-killing event.
Sure. Yes.
Now, as it turned out, it wasn't a planet-killing event. Yes. But word got out really fast about it being a planet-killing event, despite the fact that it actually didn't turn out to be, and the company did everything right, including remediating the problem, even though they didn't cause it.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So it wasn't there. It was somebody, but they didn't pass the blame. They said, we're going to deal with it. We're going to fix it. But that company then had a severe drop in, in applications, and we had to respond with sourcing, and we had to change our messaging to essentially say, because one of the, common responses was, I don't want to work for your company. You're not even on my radar because your company just killed the planet.
Yeah.
Right. So our response to that was, listen, we are fixing that. We intend to fix it, and we need you to help us fix it.
And this
so you can either bitch that we killed the planet, or you can help us figure this out. Or do you want to act or not? We're acting. How about you? Are you going to act, or are you going to sit there and blame other people?
This is where nailed on correct messaging, positioning helps massively, because take your, because I've done the people who have converted, smoking companies, like people who produce tobacco. I've done pharmaceuticals that can come under the thing. I've done the aerospace thing. I've done the oil and gas type things. You know, all of these things I've got a repertoire of some danger, some problems, and blah. But in any given room of 100 people, it's okay that 90 people don't want to work for you.
That's fine. Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
It's absolutely fine.
It's just when 100% of people are responding with, "Oh, hell no."
Exactly. And I think that's the challenge. And this is what I mean about the kind of the data part and the positioning part around, actually, if we can work out through the way in which we communicate to market, how to not eliminate the other 90, because you don't want to eliminate them, but help them make a clear decision to say, they're the people we're probably going to have too hard a time turning around because they're dead. But there are 10 people in the room who say, I know you want to fix it. And I believe in the bigger cause of what it is you do in the world, but I know you're trying to fix it. So the message to those people is different. It's about resolution. It's about still our goals, still our intentions, the honesty that comes through that message and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. And if still somebody calls BS on it, well, that's
you're not trying to be everything to everybody.
What more can you do? But you're still playing a game. And this is the value of great messaging, great recruitment marketing, and clear thinking, clear path thinking in employer brand communications is make sure you've got the 10 people in your eye line. Make sure you're pulling the 10 people through your cumbersome slow funnel.
The ones that you've identified as the ideal candidate profile.
Yeah, because what we do too often in a TA landscape is like, where's the world? Like, how do we attract the world? What? And from a marketing perspective is, let's not attract the world. Let's attract the slice of the world. Exactly. The slice of market that matters the most. Bring them bloody close. Bring them
right. It's like, listen, this cigarette is not for you.
Yeah.
Right.
And everybody, and there's a reason why those companies still employ 120,000 people in the world, right? Because there's a portion of every marketplace that will do crap jobs, will work for companies that most people don't think are ethical. There are others that, and we get into this world of thinking like we've got to only work for ethical organizations. The reality is that if you're only working for ethical organizations, you're
unemployed.
You're a real sliver of the market, aren't you?
Right.
And I think what we do is and again, there are people who make that choice. And a great example is that when I've done research into things like graduates in law, take graduates in law, there's 2 camps of people in law. I know it's the same in America as it is in the US, but certainly in the UK. But in the UK, there are 40% of people who do law for public justice, and they will go and work public sector, government, order. They'll get paid lower. They'll get the benefits could be good, but they're going to get paid lower than going to like an Allen Overy or Linklaters or the big law firms. But there are others who did law because they want to earn crap loads of money and they don't mind working long hours, and they see the big car and the big house and all that kind of stuff. And that's 2 people who did the same, 2 sets of people who did the same law.
Different employers.
Exactly. And what it demonstrates is precisely, and it happens everywhere, right? And it reminds us that sometimes the less exciting ones, the ones that don't pay as well, the ones that are kind of public service oriented, get filled because there's a big attraction. Then it also shows us that the really horrible jobs, which are long hours and tough time and heavy leadership and all that, will also get filled. We'll also get people who are attracted to those roles if we do our job properly, which is to segment the people accordingly and recognize how we drive the right messaging to the right audiences and build community and messaging power through that, rather than misleading the wrong people down the wrong path.
Right. Yeah, you don't want everybody to
never get pulled into.
If everybody applies, you end up with the problem we have now, which is
you do. And if you try to make people apply who shouldn't apply, and
now you have to reject them, and you've done double down.
Yeah, we've gone through that cycle in recruitment now.
Where we've
gone away from trying to overly convince people to come into a world of kind of let's give some honest facts, let's get the right people through the door. I believe we've come that far now.
So obviously, and I'm gonna poke on something here that's gonna hurt a little bit. You know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But you built the EB Club because EB can be a lonely job. Sometimes there's only one person in an entire company, even a large company. So it's not like like you have we've got 12 recruiters on our team, and you can have a candid conversation with your teammates. EB is a lonely job, and so that's why you built the community. But
One of them, yeah.
Is it one of the reasons? Yeah, right. Not the only reason,
Yeah.
but one of the reasons. Isn't that also in and of itself a bit of a problem, because it creates an echo chamber of these lonely people all talking to each other about their lonely existence and having only their perspective that then just essentially echoes or reinforces their existing views? How do you prevent a community, any community, yours in particular, from becoming that echo chamber and not moving the discipline forward, which is the intent of the group?
Yeah, great shout, and it doesn't hurt at all that you've said it.
I'm poking a little bit.
Just a little poke, but because that was always the danger of something like this. When you've got a closed crowd, you've got a tight audience of people because of their specific discipline. Community comes together by finding people who need a similar itch scratching. And the point is, we still have to scratch itches. We still need to have therapy sessions. We still need to cry on somebody's shoulder to say, oh my God, have you got any ideas as to how I get through this thing? Or, geez, guys, I went through this scenario and it's kind of giving me all sorts of
We just
crap.
destroyed the world. What do we do now?
Yeah. So what we've got is in every community, there are pain points. But as you've alluded to quite correctly, the point is to elevate and integrate. So one of the most questions and conversations I have in EB club rooms around all the cities and the world that we've done it are around how do we integrate better into the world that we're operating in, into the world. Who do we talk to? Where do we get the right things? How do we become more powerful at the jobs we do? How do we become? And every question always comes back to, does it do something for the business that creates value to the business? Who looks at it and kind of goes, so I think I call it like it's almost like we're going through a maturing process, I think is a good way of putting it. We're going through a maturing process at the same time as the job becoming more complex and more layered and more challenged. And I think through that, you need community. The interesting thing about community, the community and community like it, is that if I've got a room of 50 people, probably only 20 to 25 of those 50 people have actually got an EB title job. Other people do EB in their job. People in culture and HR, people in talent acquisition, and people in recruitment marketing. Now, I think this is to a degree quite a good thing, because I think what it's starting to show is that the role is combining into the ecosystem better, rather than being kind of like the geeky guy in the corner.
It's exactly what's going on with sourcing.
Yeah, so I think we're just getting that, and that's the idea. It's all about positive education and positive. We'll never have nobody will walk into an EB club and have somebody stand at the front and tell them 10 things they're doing wrong in employer branding.
Right.
Like it's about demonstrating methods, routes, sharing stories. Great storytelling stuff from EB leaders and TA leaders who are just doing super cool stuff and are helping other people get on that path.
So we're really close to the end here, and I wanted to leave everyone with kind of like, let's just call it a shocking moment or whatever from all of these things that you've learned from the EB club. What would you say has surfaced as the single most dangerous assumption that employment branding practitioners are making now that's going to hurt them in the next cycle?
That's a tough question, actually, Shally. I think there is. I'm worried that we are chiming the death of creativity and creative output. Now, historically, that's been our sort of like our little corner, our crayons corner, where we create nice things and videos and EVP videos and blah blah. And there's two things attached to this. I'm going to give two things. I just suddenly thought about it.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't have to be the most, but like just
because I think there's two things aligned in some respects. I'm just going to try and tackle them differently, but together. One is creativity. It's that we should just yield to AI for creativity, and the job of that brilliant motion designer that I worked with at Blackbridge last year never gets usurped. It never gets killed. That skill is still brilliant. AI doesn't work on its own for that kind of stuff, because AI you still have to say the right things. You still have to communicate the right things, not just the thing that AI says. So I'm worried about that. That's a worry for me, that we are saying, we'll trade off creative for everything else. Like, well, okay, AI, you can have creative, but leave the rest to it. I don't like that. I don't think that's a good answer, but to things. But it just occurred to me. We mentioned the EVP right at the start of the show, and then you said if you don't know what an EVP is, ask Steve about it. I won't go into it because we don't have time to talk about entirely what an EVP is, but I will reference it. There's a discussion a lot at the moment as to whether people should do an EVP anymore. Big projects, big company project, big company uniting project that pulls the identity of the company together and gives us a sort of a meaning to all of our recruitment, HR people, communications, etc., etc. If done well, like all of these things, if it's done well, it's very easy right now to say we don't need one of those anymore. Like, let's just cut that out. It just sounds like something we did back in the 10 years ago that kind of like, then we did this project, spent $250,000 on it, and then nobody ever did anything with it. The EVP is not dead. It's a big story in employer brand, I would say, about whether we should still do EVP kind of work. Do we need that infrastructure of people communication? I think people are thinking we're running away. We can move on from the EVP, I would say, and I'd say it's still very alive, done well, with a living journey, but it needs to be focused inwardly, not focused externally. It needs to be for the people, for the employees, for the culture, for I'm going to say authenticity again, and I know it's going to charge me, going to charge me another $5 for it, but we need to find some truth. And so the EVP is not dead. So I think there's two things. I think the mishandling of the growth of AI into just a simple thing of like, yeah, okay, let's just let AI do creative. And then the other element that's fundamental to employer brands, which is, don't just write off the EVP just yet. I think you might find it might help your retention, growth, culture, and all the things that employer brand is leaning into right now.
That's a solid answer. And we are pretty close to shutting down here. So is there anything in specific? Well, folks, you can connect with Steve on that LinkedIn URL there, and both the EV Club link are there if you want to inquire about that, and also the Beyond Cloud9, his Steve's business are there. I guess a little plug there for advertising. But is there anything that give us a closing piece of wisdom in the form of deep thoughts that we should ask ourselves? Leave us with a question we should ponder for ourselves about employment branding that you're passionate about. Not an answer, a question that we should ask.
Yeah, I think the question we always ask is, how does this make people feel? It does every action that we do.
How does what you're doing make people feel? Okay.
Yeah. How do you think it? Right. Are we doing the best choice for ourselves, or are we doing it for the candidate? Which are we doing?
Okay.
And then make a decision around that. There are a number of big legal cases at the moment, largely in the US, with companies who are using AI for filtering out candidates and all that kind of stuff, and are going to court for it and blah blah. And it was an example of lack of accountability in the decision making of taking on new things, any new things. I don't want to point this at AI particularly, but I want to point it generally.
No, just whatever. Yeah, right.
Right, because right now, what people feel matters more than ever, because their willingness to share it and their willingness to bolt it out. So I would just have everybody stop and think about, what does this mean to the candidate audience?
What does it mean, and how does it make them feel?
How does it make them feel? It sounds so simple, but actually that's what reputation is. That's what employer brands comes from.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I always define brand as if you think back to somebody that you haven't talked to in 5 years, that maybe was your boss or a coworker, and there's one thing you remember about them, like they were loud, or they were obnoxious, or they were really smart. That's the brand, and that's about as long as it takes to really change a brand, because you can't just change it overnight. A brand is something that takes time to develop and solidify, and once it does, it's difficult to change it unless major catastrophic,
something massive happens.
you know, Bud Light. I mean, sorry, that was just my mind. Events happen, you know. But anyways, so thank you so much. This has been great, folks. I'm going to say this is it for now, but be on the lookout, because I think that the EB Club might have a special offer and discount for members of the TSI University. So be on the lookout for that and join tsiuniversity.com to find out more. And we will see you back here next Friday. Our next episode is going to be with Matt Alder. That's Matt Alder on LinkedIn. So just linkedin.com in Matt Alder. You were asking me, do I have a lot of guests from the UK? Well, there's one right there. So tune in next week. And Steve, we'll be back in touch. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Shally.
Be kind to yourselves.